Hello hockey fans and welcome back to another video. Of all the general managers that are currently employed in the National Hockey League, there is none more experienced than Lou Lamoriello. Having served as a GM for nearly 3.5 decades, the 78-year-old has produced quite the career for himself, as he turned the New Jersey Devils from a bottom feeder to a 3-time Stanley Cup champion. He was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame back in 2010, and he even earned the league's General Manager of the Year award just this past season. Though he has produced a long and successful front office career, and he is still considered one of the best in his field all these years later, Lamoriello has been known to implement some unconventional rules over the years. Whether it's his continuation of old-school traditions, his unorthodox policies, or his interactions with reporters, Lamoriello is seen as a bit of a maverick compared to his contemporaries. Given the number of strange rules that he's implemented over the years, I figured it'd be worth delving deeper into Lamoriello's more interesting policies in order to understand the motives behind them, whether they have contributed to his success in the league, as well as why some of them are still being enforced to this very day. So in today's video, join me as we explore the unique rulebook of Lou Lamoriello. Before we begin, this video is sponsored by Manscaped. Manscaped are the global leaders in men's below-the-belt grooming, trusted by over 2 million customers worldwide, thanks to their precision-engineered tools that help you take care of what's down there. Now, you've heard me talk about Manscaped's wide variety of high-quality products over the last few months. Whether it's their iconic Lawnmower 3.0, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, their various liquid formulations, and even their signature scent cologne, you've seen it all, folks. However, this month I really wanted to highlight the great work that Manscaped have been doing for those who need it most, and how your purchases have helped them to do so. In addition to providing the right tools for the job, Manscaped has partnered with the Testicular Cancer Society in order to spread awareness for men's health and encourage early cancer detection. Together, Manscaped and TCS are committed to providing support for fighters, survivors, and families of those who have been impacted by testicular cancer. And by purchasing Manscaped's products, you are directly helping them to combat the most common form of cancer found in men aged 15 to 35. While we're on the subject, why not give yourself a little look down there once this video is over, and make sure everything is how it should be. It can't hurt to double check, right guys? So if you want to try Manscaped's wide range of high quality products for yourself, play your part in the battle against testicular cancer, and bag yourself a pretty sweet discount, head on over to manscaped.com and use promo code OddManRush20 for 20% off your order plus free shipping. That's manscaped.com and promo code OddManRush20 for 20% off your order plus free shipping. Manscaped, refining the gentleman. But anyway, back to the video. Let us begin with a policy that Lamoriello still implements to this day surrounding jersey numbers. Since joining the NHL back in 1987, Lou Lamoriello has never liked his players wearing a high number on the back of their jersey. In fact, he has typically allowed his players to only wear a number between 2 and 30. So if you're wanting to wear something a little higher up the list, Lamoriello's team isn't for you, folks. However, there have been a few exceptions to this rule. Firstly, goaltenders are allowed to wear the numbers 1, 31, 35 and 40, as they have all been common goalie numbers in years past, while players who join the roster temporarily are able to keep their usual number regardless of how high it is. For example, if a player gets called up from the minors due to an injury on the roster, that player gets to keep his number for the duration of his tenure with the team. In addition, veteran players and league legends are also allowed to keep their previous number, as they have earned the privilege through their strong and consistent on-ice play. For example, Islanders defenseman Johnny Boychuk was allowed to keep his number 55 after Lamoriello moved to Long Island, while league legend Jaromir Jagr kept his iconic number 68 when he joined the Devils back in 2013, although it's unclear what constitutes a veteran in Lamoriello's eyes, or what criteria he uses in order to determine who gets to keep their number and who doesn't. If you happen to be a rookie or a younger player on the roster though, you aren't given the same luxury, as evidenced by Islanders youngsters Anthony Beauvillier and Josh Ho-Sang having to trade in their numbers 72 and 66 for 18 and 26 once Lamoriello moved to New York. While we're still on the subject of numbers, another interesting fact about Lamoriello is that he supposedly dislikes the number 13. In fact, Lamoriello hates it so much that he refused to let any New Jersey Devils player wear it during his 28 years with the organisation. He even made longtime NHL forward Mike Camilleri change his number when he signed with New Jersey back in 2014, despite Camilleri having worn the number 13 for nearly the entirety of his 11-year NHL career at the time. That said, he has let Islanders forward Matt Barzal wear the number during his tenure in New York, so either he made an exception for Barzal given he had just been crowned Rookie of the Year upon his arrival, or he has since softened his stance on the number since it falls in the 2 to 30 range. I reckon it's probably the former though, don't you folks? Now I know what you're thinking, why is Lamoriello so concerned with jersey numbers? Why does he forbid his players from wearing something higher up the list? Well, when he was asked this exact question back in March of 2020, the man himself provided an answer. During a fan Q&A, Lamoriello stated, quote, "I still believe in tradition. It's not the number that makes the player, it's the player that makes the number." So as ridiculous as this rule might seem on the surface, there is a thought process behind it. By keeping each player's number within a certain range, Lamoriello is not only continuing the old-school tradition of giving his players low jersey numbers, he is emphasising that no member of the roster is bigger or more important than the team itself, since every player's number carries a similar numerical value to everyone else on the team. Not only that, it also reinforces that the logo on the front of the jersey is far more important than the name or the number on the back, since jersey numbers come and go, but the logo they wear and the value that it represents always remains the same. Sure, this might seem a little outdated in the year 2021, but this kind of team-first mentality still resonates with certain players and fans. After all, the idea that every player is just as important to the team's overall success, regardless of their role on the roster, helps to eliminate egos in the locker room and keep the entire team focused on what really matters: winning hockey games and potentially lifting the Stanley Cup. Does limiting the numbers a player can wear ultimately instill that philosophy? Probably not, but it's certainly a step in that direction, whether you agree with it or not. Next up, we have arguably the most well-known of Lamoriello's unique rules, which is his policy on facial hair. If you are a player on Lou Lamoriello's roster, you are not permitted to grow any type of facial hair for the entirety of the regular season. You heard me right, folks. Grown men, who are also millionaires I might add, are forbidden from growing a beard. This bizarre rule was once again thrust into the spotlight less than 2 weeks ago, when newly acquired forward Kyle Palmieri shocked fans as he took to the ice in his first practice with the Islanders without his signature bushy brown beard. In fact, Palmieri said that it was the first time he had fully shaved in years. Although this isn't the first time that Palmieri has run into this policy, having been traded to Lamoriello's Devils back in 2015, and having been forced to shave his beard off then too. Other notable examples of this policy being enforced include long-time Habs forward Thomas Plekanec being forced to shave his trademark goatee after he was traded to Toronto at the 2018 trade deadline, Leafs forward Leo Komarov shaving off his unique horseshoe mustache once Lamoriello joined the Leafs in 2015, as well as Islanders players Andrew Ladd and Nick Leddy having to shave off their beards once Lamoriello took the helm in 2018. If all of this wasn't enough for you though, Lamoriello has even required that some of his players adopt a completely different hairstyle too, highlighted by former Leafs forward Tyler Bozak swapping out his long, messy hockey flow for a shorter, more traditional cut once Lamoriello joined the team. However, it's worth mentioning that Lamoriello is much more forgiving on his hair policies when it comes to the playoffs, as he has no problem with members of his roster growing beards during the postseason, a tradition that has been around in the league for many decades now. So why is Lamoriello so strict on facial hair? Well, other than making playoff beards seem more like a luxury than a tradition, it's all about being professional. By staying clean-shaven and adopting a shorter hairstyle, Lamoriello is ensuring that each of his players look presentable and they carry a certain level of professionalism, both when they're working at the rink and when they go about their day-to-day business in the wider community. And besides, if every player looks similar to one another, they quickly begin to realise that they're all in the same boat and they start to bond together as a unit. This approach also reminds players that their individual styles and personalities should never be bigger than anyone else in the room, or even overshadow the team itself, since every player has to fulfill their role to the best of their ability, and there shouldn't be any distractions from their overall goal. Now, I think we can agree that this is another old school policy that seems a little outdated in present day. After all, with players garnering large followings on social media by expressing themselves, and with many teams encouraging jokes or memes amongst their respective fan bases, the league is clearly looking to inject a little more personality into the game, something that is very difficult to do when following a policy like this. That said, players still turn up to every fixture wearing a tailored suit, so I doubt letting them grow out their hair or rock a beard during the regular season will make them look too unprofessional anytime soon, you know. Whilst I can see the thought process behind this rule, I personally think that this policy is pretty overboard for today's NHL. Of course, banning facial hair isn't exactly hurting anyone, and being professional is still important for any member of the league, but it's one of those rules that's so specific and so unrelated to actual events on the ice that it seems rather unnecessary to enforce, at least in my opinion anyway. Moving on to one of Lamoriello's more logical policies now, and that is his refusal to allow distractions on his team, whether they come from within the organisation or are created outside by the media. While this is less of a rule and more of an organisational philosophy, Lamoriello's ability to run such a tight ship for nearly 3.5 decades certainly lends itself to a number of policies behind the scenes. Though he has worked in an era that has seemingly thrived on trade rumours and leaks, Lou Lamoriello forbids every member of his organisation from revealing any notable information to the media before an official announcement has been made by the team itself. A prime example of this is when Lamoriello joined the Toronto Maple Leafs in 2015, where he transformed the organisation from a hive of constant trade rumours, unnecessary attacks on players, and bold predictions from notable sources within the front office, to a tight-lipped, well-oiled machine that gave the press little to work with. Considering how quick and easy it is to spread information nowadays, the fact that it's been so rare for Lamoriello's teams to leak information to the public is a pretty impressive feat, folks. Not only does his organisation keep things well under wraps, Lamoriello is perhaps the greatest at practicing what he preaches. During his numerous interviews with the media, Lamoriello has become known for his cryptic responses and giving non-answers which provide little to no information. Whether it's his storied use of the phrase status quo, telling reporters not to worry about his salary cap, or his literal response to the days of the week, Lamoriello's refusal to give the press even a drop of information must really infuriate the media, but it's rather entertaining for the rest of us. So why does Lamoriello keep everything so tight-lipped? Well, unlike the previous rules we have looked at, this approach clearly provides several benefits for both himself and the rest of his organisation. Not only does this strategy keep the media at arm's length and limit their ability to speculate with any certainty, the lack of public information ensures that Lamoriello's players aren't subject to the same bombardment of rumours and theories compared to other players around the league, meaning that they are less distracted by what is being written about them and they can instead focus on playing hockey. After all, that's what they're paid millions of dollars to do, right? Also, keeping his cards close to his chest potentially gives Lamoriello an advantage in trade negotiations, as he likely has more information on another team's situation than they do of him, giving him the chance to make an underrated trade or acquire greater assets than another team or GM might have gotten in return. If you ask me, this is the only Lamoriello rule that I actually agree with so far. Considering how easy it is to leak information or bring attention to a certain narrative nowadays, players can quickly become overwhelmed with the amount of talk surrounding them, especially when they aren't playing well or they are expecting to be traded in the near future. While some players can block it out, others are more sensitive to the noise, to the point where it has a direct impact on their performance during games, which further exacerbates the problem. By limiting the lines of communication between the organisation and the media, Lamoriello ensures that his players can focus solely on their on-ice play and prioritise helping the team win hockey games, which is the most important thing for both the players and the franchise at the end of the day. Not only that, this philosophy also ensures that any issues remain within the organisation, and it gives the team enough time to resolve the situation before the media catches wind of it and blows it completely out of proportion. A scenario which would no doubt make things even worse and cause further friction inside the locker room. So although it might not be ideal for reporters or hardcore fans, running a tight ship certainly has its advantages. Now that we have covered the rules that Lamoriello still implements to this very day, let's take a look at some policies that he either no longer enforces, or are considered minor points in the grand scheme of things. First up is Lamoriello's outright refusal to give players performance bonuses as part of their contracts. In fact, Lamoriello supposedly refrained from giving out any bonuses for the first 23 years of his GM career. This policy was especially prevalent in his negotiations with rookies and recent draft picks who were signing their entry-level deals, as he would make sure that each young player was signed to a near-identical contract to his fellow teammates. A prime example of this is when Lamoriello signed defenseman Adam Larsson to his entry-level deal on the last possible day for NHL eligibility back in 2011. And why did it take so long to get this contract signed? Because Larsson's camp wanted performance bonuses as part of the deal, but Lamoriello refused to budge, so both sides were locked in a bitter stalemate before Larsson's camp were forced to cave at the last minute. Not exactly the warmest welcome for your recent 4th overall draft pick, but Lamoriello is as tough a negotiator as you'll find in the NHL, folks. But why was Lamoriello so hesitant to give performance bonuses for so long? Well, according to the man himself, it once again comes down to putting the interests of the team above any individual. When talking to the media after the Larsson signing, Lamoriello said, and I quote, "In my mind, it is not a team-first philosophy that players have bonuses that if they score goals they get money, or if they get more ice time than another player then they get more money. The reason is because every player in our locker room that we have drafted has bought into that philosophy. Nobody worries about individual things, only the team is a commitment that's made. So once again, it doesn't matter if you're the 1st overall draft pick or you're left unselected in each of your years of eligibility, the logo on the front of the jersey is more important than the name or the number on the back." However, it's worth pointing out that Lamoriello has since softened his stance on this policy in recent years, as he has given out performance bonuses to everyone from Austin Matthews to Mitch Marner, to Oliver Wahlstrom, to a 3rd-round pick who has yet to make it to the NHL. Though this might seem a little strange given his track record, I would imagine that Lamoriello realised that the league was shifting more towards bonus-oriented contracts, and he needed to move with the times. That said, a large number of the bonuses that he now gives out aren't actually earned by the players that he gives them to, as they either fail to reach the criteria or they never end up making it to the NHL, so I'm sure he doesn't mind giving them out all that much nowadays. Next up, we have Lamoriello's holdout over 3rd jerseys. While most NHL teams have adopted an alternate option over the years, Lou Lamoriello refused to let the New Jersey Devils have a 3rd jersey for his entire tenure with the organisation. Now, to be fair, the Devils' home jersey is pretty iconic already, and their retro versions have typically served as the 3rd option instead, but you can imagine that this decision caused a divide within the fanbase, as many supporters would have loved to have seen a fresh new look that could rival the other alternate jerseys in the league. However, similar to his stance on performance bonuses, Lamoriello has changed his tune since his departure from New Jersey, whether he wanted to or not. With the Islanders rocking 4 different jerseys this season, and with the league incorporating the reverse retro collection this year, Lamoriello has had no choice but to let his team use multiple options throughout the season, although some of them might have been better left unworn, you know. And finally, the last notable rule that I can find is Lamoriello's continued desire to keep certain on-ice events private. Whether it's pre-season training camps, team practices, or prospect activities, a number of sessions have typically been closed to the public for the majority of Lamoriello's tenure as a general manager. In fact, seeing the players in any type of non-game setting has supposedly been pretty rare to come by, at least during his time in New Jersey anyway. While this lack of access hasn't been much of an issue over the last year or so due to the obvious current situation, you can imagine that this distanced approach has left many fans disappointed, as all they want is a little more access to the team and its players, especially if they make the effort to turn up to these events and seek out opportunities to get a peek behind the curtain. That said, if there's no rule specifically stating that fans have to be given access to these events, and Lamoriello wants to keep these sessions private, then he is well within his right to do so. After all, it's certainly on brand with his team-first, distraction-free philosophy, folks? Though he has certainly implemented some unconventional rules over the years, and while many of them seem outdated on the surface, when you delve deeper into why Lou Lamoriello has implemented these policies, you begin to understand how they perfectly encapsulate the type of general manager he is. Sure, refusing to let your players grow a beard during the regular season is ridiculous, and forbidding them from wearing a jersey number above 30 is unnecessary, but Lamoriello has built a reputation for always putting the success of his team before anything or anyone else. By implementing these unorthodox rules, Lamoriello sends a clear message to every other member of his organisation that he expects them to do the same. If everyone presents themselves in a similar professional manner, if everyone prioritises playing for the logo on their front, and if everyone keeps their focus solely on the job in which they are paid to do, then they will be rewarded with a chance to compete for a championship year after year. After all, you don't win 3 Stanley Cups, get inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame, help put a number of teams on the path to success, and spend nearly 35 years as a GM if you're bad at your job now, do you? Whether you agree with his policies or not, one thing's for sure, folks. Lamoriello may be the oldest GM around, but he shows no signs of slowing down anytime soon. And that was a look at the unique rulebook of Lou Lamoriello. What do you guys think about Lamoriello's more unconventional policies? Do you think it's time for them to change in the year 2021, or do you think there is a method to his madness? Let me know in the comments below, I would love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching, guys, I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye! A big thank you to Carl Fairbank, Connor B, Drew Fawcett, Houston NG, Jordan Whitehead, Saturn Otaku, Tom from Finland, Twin Sanity Dad, and Worthless Pieces for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.